Welcome to Learn Jazz Drums. Today's lesson is about how to take books like this and do a million things with all the exercises inside of it. So this book is Modern Reading Text in 4/4 by Louis Bellson, and I'll link it in the description below if you want to check out that book and get it for yourself. But really it's just a bunch of different ways that things are written out in 4/4. And it goes through eighth notes, triplets, 16th notes, everything, but it writes it out in all these different ways that might trip you up if you're sight reading a chart, and they write out the rhythm a little different, but it's actually something you're familiar with. So this book is really useful for that. But this book and books like it are so much more than just reading down the page and moving on to the next. You can do all sorts of stuff with it in jazz. So I'm going to be referencing page 16 out of this book, and I'm going to do the 5th line down so you can see all this stuff that I'm going to do with it. So I'll write that out on screen, just the 4 bars, but I'm just going to write the rhythms. I'm not going to write out everything that I'm doing with it because I want you to kind of think about it in your brain and kind of be able to recognize these things, because over time you can work on how to interpret stuff like this and then be applying it to charts that you're sight reading. So if we take line 5 by itself, it's just this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a good sight reading exercise right there, just to literally read down the whole page like that. And I like to do that at a really fast tempo, faster than I think I can handle, and put on a metronome and just read it top to bottom without stopping. Even if I mess up, keep going, because when you're sight reading on a bandstand, you have to keep going no matter what happens. So that's good practice to just do that, read it all the way down really fast, and then go back and figure out what you messed up. So I'll just try the first 2 lines from the top really fast. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I think I got it right, and I could work on that to make sure it sounds a little less like, and I'm sight reading and at a fast tempo, and that's part of the practice there. So that's the first thing that I would do, and then maybe take it at a regular tempo and just try to make it feel good. So I'll take the 5th line, that same line I have written out, and I'll just try to make it feel really good. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, pretty good. And then maybe I could add some accents in there to do other stuff with it. And then the next one is pretty obvious, but do it all on the left hand when you're playing time. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then do the same thing as before, but with time. So play around with the accents. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you can start getting pretty creative. So maybe every time it's written out as a physical 8th note, you play that on the left hand on the snare drum, and then every time it's written out as an actual quarter note, play that on the bass drum. And this one might actually sound pretty cool for these 4 bars. It's not always going to sound amazing, but it's a good exercise, and you'll find some variations that you probably wouldn't have come up with before. So again, 8th notes on the snare drum, and then quarter notes on a bass drum. And I'm not talking about the amount of space, I'm talking about the actual written rhythm as an 8th note. Even if there's an 8th note rest after it, that doesn't count as a quarter note. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then maybe do the same thing and try to phrase it more like Billy Higgins or something, like a little bit looser and a little bit straighter. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then now let's flip it, so all the 8th notes on the bass drum and then all the quarter notes on the snare drum. In this case, there's a lot of 8th notes, so I'm anticipating it might be a little too much bass drum, but let's at least try it. A 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know, that was actually pretty cool, and it's good to work on your bass drum playing those offbeats like that. So those are some great options. You already have a ton of options there, and those are just 2 examples that you take the eighth notes and play them on the snare drum, the quarter notes play them on the bass drum, and then flip it, and you come up with all these sorts of possibilities just from this book of rhythms. And then another thing you could do, depending on how busy it is, you could treat it as a horn line. So let me play this as if I'm playing in a big band, and I'm not going to play full out like I'm in a big band, but I'll just give you an example where I'm kind of crashing and creating destination points at the end of these rhythms. A 1, 2, 3, 4. So now moving away from time, here's another thing you could do. You could take just playing straight triplets the whole time, and then treat those as accents. So treat the rhythm that's written there, ba ba da da da, as da ga da da ga da ga da da da. You'll see what I mean. A 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's an example playing triplets and just keeping straight, sticking the whole time, right, left, right, left, right, left. And then you can try all sorts of things, maybe doing all right, left, left, right, right, left, and then seeing how it works out with each phrase to where you play the accent on the ands with the right, right, left. You know, there's a million possibilities there, but that's another example. So those are just a few examples of how to take a simple book like this that is just a bunch of written out rhythms and do a ton of different things with them on the drum set and actually come up with musical ways to apply it. You can first just sight read it, treat it as an exercise, and then you can sight read it and try to make it swing and try to make it feel really good. Then you can play it as a comping exercise and do a bunch of different versions, snare drum, bass drum, snare drum. Use it as soloing accent patterns, all sorts of different stuff. And I hope these were helpful. Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what other things you come up with. What other ways you can take these 4 bars or other bars out of a book and just apply them on the drum set and take it from where it's just a written out rhythm and apply it to a musical context. So thanks so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next one.